Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I begin, Mr. Speaker, with the matter of the OBR leak report, to say that we will, of course, study that report in detail. But can I also seek the immediate reassurance from the right honourable gentleman that his concluding comment in that regard, and I quote, "We will respond to this matter with the seriousness it demands," will not include scapegoating the OBR to distract from the serious questions surrounding the handling of the budget by the Chancellor, Ministers, the Treasury and Number 10. And so, Mr. Speaker, turning to the other matters the Chief Secretary addressed in his statement, we expect those in positions of power to act with transparency, openness and integrity. But it is increasingly clear that in recent weeks, the conduct of people in government fell short of those standards. This is not just my view. Indeed, a member of the Cabinet is quoted in the press today saying, and I quote, "The handling of this budget has been a disaster from start to finish." Mr. Speaker, the impression has been given that there was a concerted attempt to paint an inaccurate picture of the public finances designed to give political cover for policy decisions around increases in taxes and in welfare spending. Mr. Speaker, on the 4th of November, the Chancellor delivered a pre-budget statement in Downing Street. In it, she said that the OBR would be downgrading their productivity forecasts, meaning lower tax receipts. The Chancellor herself says that statement was meant to set the context for the public finances and the need to take difficult decisions on tax. But she failed, and this is the key point that the right honourable gentleman did not address. She failed to mention that the net result of the OBR's review of the economy was in fact an increase in tax revenues, not a black hole. To quote the OBR's budget report, in isolation, the reduction in productivity growth could have lowered revenues by around 16 billion. However, the boost to receipts from higher inflation and changes to the composition of nominal GDP growth more than offset this. The Chief Secretary argues that there was a need to increase headroom, but that was not the justification for tax rises which was given before the budget, although it is effectively an admission that the decision to leave such a small headroom at the last two fiscal events was irresponsible. And it fails to acknowledge that a significant proportion of the increase in taxes was actually used to fund policy decisions on spending, specifically on welfare. Mr. Speaker, on the 14th of November, the media were briefed that income tax rates would not be increased following the improved forecast from the OBR. We now know this was simply false. As I pointed out in my letter to the OBR before the budget, the finalised pre-measures forecast came weeks before this on the 31st of October. Even after the budget, in a Guardian interview, the Chancellor said income tax rises had remained on the table well into November, quote, "because we didn't know the size of the downgrade in productivity." That is not true. Okay. Since then, on Friday, the OBR took the unprecedented step of publishing their estimates for headroom in each of their pre-measures forecast rounds. As a result, we now know that at no point was there a deficit of the scale suggested to the media. So can I ask the Chief Secretary, why did the Chancellor claim that she did not know the size of the headroom forecast by the OBR in November when their final forecast was submitted on the 31st of October? At what point were the Cabinet informed that the forecast still showed a surplus? And why did the Chancellor suggest that the OBR's review of the economy had led to a significant deterioration in the public finances? We now know that the briefings to the press were not just inappropriate, they were inaccurate. Those briefings can only have come from inside government. So can the Chief Secretary finally give us a clear answer? Was the Chancellor aware of those briefings and did she authorise them, yes or no? Can he commit to a full investigation by both the Permanent Secretary and the Financial Conduct Authority into those briefings? And can he explain why the Chancellor chose to opine repeatedly on the OBR's forecasts before the budget when those forecasts are provided to her in strictest confidence? Mr. Speaker, the Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister claimed this morning that the OBR's publication on Friday was simply responding to a request from the Select Committee. But the OBR's report on Wednesday said that it planned to write this letter already. So can the Chief Secretary confirm that in fact it was a proactive choice by the OBR to publish that information, clearly suggesting that the OBR were concerned that the record as to who knew what and when would otherwise be less than clear. Mr. Speaker, it is a matter of profound regret that while the Chancellor chose to appear before the media yesterday, she did not see fit to appear here today. The Chancellor's credibility is in tatters, and to the long list of her failings in respect to these matters should be added that of disrespecting this House.
Chief Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I was unclear from the Shadow Chancellor's comments at the beginning of his speech just then whether, like us, he values the role of the OBR in the budget-setting process. We value its independence, we value its integrity, and that is why we take what happened last Wednesday with the utmost seriousness, and we're determined to pursue it. Mr. Speaker, the Shadow Chancellor went on to make a series of other points which I would address, but what he fails to acknowledge is that the productivity downgrade was real. The £16 billion hit to the forecast as a result of productivity downgrade was real. And I wonder why he doesn't want to acknowledge that, Mr. Speaker. Could it be because the productivity downgrade was a result of things his government did over the 14 years that they were in office? Could it be the fact that the productivity downgrade was the result of a review by the OBR of policies including cuts to public investment, the mishandling of Brexit, the record of the previous government? That is perhaps, Mr. Speaker, why he doesn't want to acknowledge that point. But, Mr. Speaker, the productivity downgrade, £16 billion, was real. The need to build headroom was crucial. Those were principles that guided the Chancellor going into the budget, as well as the importance of cutting the cost of living, cutting NHS waiting lists, and cutting government borrowing. And, Mr. Speaker, the Shadow Chancellor will remember from when he was in government under the Conservatives that the process with the OBR and the Treasury is an iterative one that runs up until budget day. And when the Chancellor delivered her budget alongside the economic and fiscal outlook, which was published, as we have discussed today, slightly early, that set out the context of the decisions that she took. He raised the question about information security, and he would have received, I'm sure, the letter from the Permanent Secretary to himself sent on November the 25th, which says that as Permanent Secretary, I, in this case the Permanent Secretary, place the utmost weight on budget security and will continue to keep all aspects under review to ensure the integrity of the budget process. And finally, Mr. Speaker, the Shadow Chancellor asked where the Chancellor is today. I'm very pleased to tell the House that the Chancellor has been at the Wales Investment Summit today, following the announcement yesterday of £1.4 billion of extra investment into Wales, just the latest in £16 billion of new investments announced since the summit was launched.